Hey adventurers, we are here at the Yosemite entrance point where I just witnessed so many people taking selfies and welcoming themselves to the Yosemite experience. I'm going to take you on a wonderful ride through the park today. We're going to check out a few of the main points of interest, and I do have to say, this is one of those parks that you really have to work to get to. Really steep, narrow roads. There were a few things that the Roadrunner just didn't want to do today. But with that being said, roll the intro. A few things to take into account whenever you're coming to Yosemite: the amount of time that you're going to be spending here, the entrance and exit you will be taking, and what exactly that you would like to see. I recommend stopping off at one of the visitor stop points because they can point you in the right direction after you're able to fill in those blanks. So upon stopping at the visitor station, they told me that I should go to the Yosemite Valley. That's going to be the most iconic views. And then I can drive directly through the park to see a lot of different viewpoints. Now that's not going to leave a lot of time for hiking, so we may have to make a couple concessions on what we would like to do, but that gives us a general direction. So we're off! Guys, these are all bugs that I picked up along the way from Lodi to Yosemite. From the easternmost entrance to the Yosemite Valley, it's about a 45-minute drive, so I recommend just taking it all in. The forest here is amazing. There are lots of opportunities for you to spot wildlife that are pretty clearly marked along the roadside, so just put on some music you enjoy and cruise. This is what road construction at the park looks like. There's a flagger way up at the front of this line that's allowing one lane of traffic at a time to pass through. That wasn't terrible. It was only about a 15-minute wait, so nothing terrible. Just be patient. Ooh, spooky! We are going through one of the tunnels. It says here there are tunnels for the next 2 miles, and these are pretty big tunnels. Just beyond the tunnel, there is this awesome little pull-off, so I thought, why not check it out, right? I mean, the views here are why you come. They are spectacular, and they're so unique with all of the granite, like hillsides and mountains. So I think we're gonna walk back up here to this little overlook and see what we can find. This is why people come, to see things like this, things you can't see anywhere else, and they come by the droves. There is such limited parking here, and I am actually parked somewhat in the road. So let's get back in the car and head on to the Yosemite Valley. There's the poor Roadrunner. See what I mean? Totally in the road. Upon first glance, El Capitan was beautiful, but as we got closer to it, it is amazing. Look at how massive this is. Just to give a reference, 3,000 feet high. And it was first scaled in 1958, and now people go and try to scale it all the time. Now, I was trying to see if I could find anybody up there, but they're so tiny in comparison. It says that they only look like a speck of pepper. I seriously feel like we're playing in the street, and it's like Frogger right now. I always find the little extra things to be the fun things that are along the way to see, and Yosemite has plenty of them, including this chapel behind me. So as you can see, it is a real chapel and they do have services, just not right now. So I think that I'm gonna make a small donation and pick up one of these cards because look how beautiful this is. I would love to figure out the angle that they took this because it's gorgeous, and I think that they took it from out there. Yep, it was most definitely taken from out in this direction. The only problem is now the trees appear to be a little bit more full grown, and because of that, there's no way I could capture the same photo. So if we look here, this tree is significantly smaller than it is now. I noticed another discrepancy. On the postcard, if you'll notice really closely, there is a massive waterfall coming from the mountain directly in front of us. But there is no waterfall right now. Right here, you can see where it's discolored, so maybe typically there is a waterfall? Maybe we'll have to ask at the other visitors area. The good news is we are not far from that visitor center to find that out. But I really am glad that I noticed this. We have encountered our first dilemma of being at a super crowded park. So we were on the side where the visitor center is located, but they're doing construction. So the parking area is closed. So now we're trying to figure out exactly where we need to go in order to find parking and make it to our destinations. Oh gosh, guys. This is the only thing I don't like about coming to a park that has a lot of traffic. Now, mind you, I am not here on a special weekend or even a weekend at all. I'm here on a Monday. Mondays typically are the slowest day in a national park. Not today, though. Yosemite stays packed. 365. Yeah, it's just really congested no matter where you go. And it becomes a little bit tedious to get around and a little bit stressful. What makes it more difficult are the signs. So I definitely see parking in this lot beside us, but there is a no turn sign. So I'm not sure exactly where we're supposed to go. And that has been the case whenever I've found parking. You can't access it on the one-way road that you're supposed to be driving on. Which makes me wonder, how do you get to it in the first place? How did all these people find the parking lot? Why is it not more clearly marked on the map? Why are there so many construction cones everywhere with such limited actual construction? All very valid questions, in my opinion. We found parking, now we're gonna go find the trolley. That was difficult. I thought this was one of the most interesting bear signs that I have seen. Bear breaking into a car. Yep. Look guys, it's a trolley stop. We didn't have to go very far. Finding the shuttle was the best thing we could have done because only 2 stops later, here we are at the visitor center. looking at those countertops. Remember, they have to come from somewhere, and granite like this is what this entire park is made of, and it's insane to see the variety of color patterns that you can go from one mountain to the next. This is the kind of visitor center I've been looking for at the past few parks. It's very hands-on. There's lots of different moving pieces that you can see and touch and feel to help you understand what's going on, and I'm just not knowing where to go next. My eye just wants to go to all of these really interesting exhibits like these and like these. There's just so much. Now, I thought this exhibit was pretty cool because we just went to see the redwoods, but here they have the sequoias, and there's a little bit of a difference. If you'll notice, the coastal redwood is tall, thin, and has branches up at the top. The sequoia is thicker and has more robust, big branches. And so while they both get really, really tall, they're both completely different in their makeup. So I thought that was really interesting. Now keep in mind, that tall, thin tree were the same trees that we saw that we were going, oh my gosh. Now this right here, along with these rocks that had tags, is a very interesting way to think about things that have moved because of glaciers. And it talks about right here how you can find things scattered throughout the park that just kind of don't make sense, but it was all because of glaciers moving, and with that they were moving these massive pieces as well as the little bitty ones. So in the park you might find something that looks like a balanced rock for no apparent reason. As we move into this area, we step into more recent history and talk about the people who came here and settled the area and actually evolved from it being the wild, wild west into a national park. And I think it's really fascinating because this wall takes you on a timeline with real accounts, real photos, and real testimonials, which are very fascinating. So as you see, you can move through and lift up all of these different panels, and under each of these panels it tells the story of the subject matter. So for example, this photo where these two gentlemen are standing with these Native American women, you can lift it up and it's going to tell about the Indian field days. And it says here that from 1916 to 1929, the National Park Service and the concessionaires sponsored the Indian Days. So it's a piece of the history of the park. This looks very similar to the Hoover Dam, but what is it? It's definitely a dam, but it's not the Hoover Dam. In this side, we can look at the first photographs, and it says here we can look at the first photographs and then we can see the same scene in a different time. So we're gonna look through these little things and it's gonna show us what everything looks like. Definitely see how the automobile changed the way that the park looked and ran, and they put in roads as opposed to just the paths. It was really interesting to see the difference and contrast in these photos. We just found out there's 5 minutes until the award-winning viewing of the video, so we're gonna pick up here in just a minute, but let's go check it out. Otherwise we will miss this and won't be able to see it again for another hour. So as you can see, this theater is a movie theater, like a real life movie theater, and it's very nice in here. So I think that we're going to kick back and for about 20 minutes learn something. Now, if you love the outdoors, you should already know who John Muir is, but if you do not, he is the man who made this entire park in its massive entirety possible. Now, he wasn't the first, however, he was the man who pushed for them to expand the boundaries, to protect the ecosystem around, so that every single inch of this park could thrive and be appreciated for years to come. He did this by walking the entire park, drawing and exploring and really getting in there and finding out all of the magic that Yosemite had to offer. And they actually dedicate this park to him in his honor because it was his life's work. This quote right here by John Muir says it all. When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. And that is so true, guys. So anything that you do affects something else. Keep that in mind. Just remember, guys, we create a ripple everywhere we go. If we decide to recycle, we create a ripple that's positive. If we decide to go and hit our neighbor, that creates a very negative cycle around us. So every single thing we do changes something else around us. And I think that that phrase right there should be like everyone's like mantra to remember. Just saying. Next up, we're going to go on the self-guided trail through the Indian village. The Indians, of course, were the first people to ever truly be stewards of this area. So as you can see, there's a little map, and it's going to tell us a little bit about each one of these locations as we get to it. So the first people to inhabit this area were the Indians, some 4,000 years ago. But then, in 1849, they started coming in to look for gold from across the United States, and in doing so it started to force the Native Americans who were here out in not such a pleasant way, very similar to that of most of the other places that we forced the Native Americans out. In doing so, we lost the true stewards who knew how to foster the land and truly take care of it. And there were just a handful of people who actually cared enough to stand up and say,
hey guys, we probably shouldn't cut down all these amazing trees.
And that is where the stewardship came in, and eventually the national park. I think that this sign along the way definitely deserves a little bit of attention. It says here that these people were all instrumental in helping to create this wonderful area in front of us to remember and honor those who were here before us. Along this trail also are little signs that talk about the plants that we might find. So for example, the mock orange. It has some information as to what it was called originally by the Native Americans, what it looks like, what it did, things like that. And I like this because it helps you to kind of associate the sign with the plant in front of you. And that's really, really nice. A chief's home was larger than a regular home, and it was because they needed to have it where they could have other people come and do different ceremonies and meals and things like that. So a chief's house typically would look somewhat like this structure right here. It's somewhat round, it has an actual roof on it, and a front door. It's not your ordinary structure, let me tell you that. Now this, guys, says that this is the ceremonial roundhouse. And we can't go in there, but we can look inside. So this is what it would have looked like. Now, who at home has seen a teepee?
I have definitely seen a teepee or two.
With Oklahoma right above my state, lots of teepees. But never have I seen a bark house, which also resembles a teepee, but uses the resources of the land around them. So this structure, as you can see, is very similar to a teepee. However, it's more permanent and utilizes the bark found from these massive trees and creates this huge shape, like a cone. This is a traditional Indian sweat lodge. So you would go in this door and the earthen top would keep the heat in, and normally they would have some kind of fire and it would heat it up considerably. And this was used by the men of the village before hunting. So this, guys, is what a typical village might have looked like at that time. You see tons of these little bark houses, and that's where independent families would live. And you can see over here, there's one in the making. It's a pole structure very similar to that of a teepee. And then the whole area is kind of centralized around certain things that are of importance, like the sweat lodge and the ceremonies area. So that's kind of neat. This one says mistletoe.
I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath the mistletoe last night.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sing in any kind of key. I'm not trying to be loud, but you know what I'm talking about. Just beyond the village is an additional museum, and it is fascinating. There's too many things in here to show you everything, so I'm just gonna give you a quick once over. In particular is pretty cool, guys, because it's a hands-on area, and you know that I like to touch stuff. So you can feel the fur and you can see what kind of nets that they used and things like that, and that's really cool. So if you're wanting to get a first impression of how you would react to something in a tactile way, this is the area for you. You know how we were talking about those big sequoias? Well, look at this. Big sequoia. This is called the big tree, and there's some little points on here that we definitely had to figure out what exactly they say. Okay, so each one of these is a set of dates or events. The Battle of Hastings is marked, and they can tell these by different points or cracks or dots, things like that. Wow, look at this. The landing of Columbus right here. So the landing of Columbus to here is not even a quarter of the tree. That's insane. The Pilgrims, wow, that's way out here. So this is how old our country is right here in comparison to this massive amount of tree. Okay guys, so now that we've done the museum, the Indian village, the video, the visitor center, wow, a power pack day full of information, it's time for us to see a few more sites. So I think from here we're going to check our handy dandy map and figure out where exactly we want to go, and then take the trolley, because that is way smarter. Interesting discovery. All of the waterfalls except for one currently don't have any water, so there's no point in us going to check out all of the beautiful waterfalls that don't have water. So instead we're gonna go back to the car, and then we're gonna do our across the park drive. I think that's gonna be smart, because every single person on that bus for the most part was going to the one waterfall, which means it's gonna be crowded. Check out this view from the parking lot though, guys. What parking lot do you know of that has a view this amazing? This is pretty amazing, guys. You can see right here that the mountain is completely and totally the granite, and it's beautiful. And you can see that it's been just like through the glacier melt over long ago. It's just so smooth and perfect. At this overlook, there's a place where we can actually go out and see just how smooth that all of this granite really is. And so down these little stairs and this path we go. Look at this, guys. It gives you a little bit better idea of what these rocks look like. So this part is relatively smooth, but you can see that it's cracked here, and it exposes this pattern, which is beautiful, but slightly lighter than this outer shell. Now this is the main reason I wanted to make sure that we came to this side. There are scenic overlooks all around here that have amazing viewpoints. Only 100 yards and we're going to see a scenic viewpoint of the Yosemite Valley where we just were. Look guys, does this look familiar? That's where we were earlier. And now we're on top of the world. This view is so worth this stop off.
That's a nice boulder. That's a real nice boulder.
But alas, we must go back to the car. We still have some driving to do and a few more potential lookouts. I don't know, we'll see. This has been a very refreshing leg of our trip. Despite the fact that we're not staying in the park as long as I would like to, we're getting to see several of the things that make this place so special. It's kind of sad that the waterfalls are pretty much dry, but this makes me happy. I'm all about the views, guys. Views make me smile. This is the path we came in on, so let's just make sure we stay on it. It looks like there's another path here where you can go and see more of the Yosemite Valley, and who knows, maybe hike all the way down. But we are not about that life today.
No, 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 no.
You see all these people like way up here? That's actually at the top of the rest stop right there. I feel like this is the perfect way for us to end today. Buy some water on a beautiful alpine lake. It's so gorgeous here. And we're sitting on a big bar of granite. I mean, where else are we gonna do that, right? I hope you have enjoyed today's adventure. If you did, please make sure you subscribe. Leave your comments below if you've ever been to Yosemite and let me know what your favorite things to do here